What's up, Walking Dead friends and family? It is Brian Castrillo, and we have got a lot to talk about today. Now, as you all know, The Walking Dead has just recently announced we got a new spinoff. This is the Maggie and Negan going into New York. Now, I just want to say that I get it. I understand why some might think that announcing this early is not good for the suspense and everything, because, we're in the final season and a lot that takes away from the drama, the suspense, if someone could possibly die. And that's what they've been saying about the Carol and Daryl show. Now, I think a lot of us are in the mentality that this is the finality, and that's why, this bothers us. And I get it. I mean, the end of the comics is the Commonwealth, and they've already announced the end of the show, but the Walking Dead universe, as we know, is not over. We have multiple spin-offs that have already been announced, and we got the movies. But what if the announcement of this, The Walking Dead just told us, maybe this isn't the end. Get on your seatbelts, get strapped in, because we're about to go on a big roller coaster ride. And with us thinking of the mentality that this is over, that would take away the suspense. Now, there are some core characters, such as a Negan, a Maggie, Carol, Daryl, that probably have some sort of armor within the plot armor within the show, but let's talk about this now. Look at the poster. Of course, that's the cover photo of the video. But if you go to the poster of the Isle of the Dead, which was announced, there's a lot of things that point to Rick. Now, let's kind of go over some of this now. Now, of course, you got the Lincoln Tunnel, the sign there that could be referencing, Andy Lincoln, but also the Lincoln Tunnel is a real place. It actually leads, and if you're a Marvel fan, you'll understand this. It goes right into Hell's Kitchen, or Manhattan. That's a real place. Now, you also got the doors right there in the center. Those go back to season 1 when Rick was in the hospital. The don't open dead inside. But you also, if you look at the Isle of the Dead on that D, you see a bunch of little birds flying around, those blackbirds. Now, we have seen these before. These are also sort of referencing Rick. Now, if you go to episode 9/5, there's 2 dreams that Rick had, and I'm going to play these in just a second for you. But in 9/5, we see Rick, talking to himself in the hospital when he was in a coma, and, telling him, get up, asshole. But you also hear Morgan in the background saying, what is your wound? And this is why I do believe Morgan is going to come back to The Walking Dead, from Fear. We have that mention, what is your wound? What is your wound? That's going to be key. But also, you go back to 9/1, you got the opening scene, where you have the younger Judith, you have Rick and Michonne, and they're walking into the field, and you see the birds, flying around in a crazy shape. But also in that dream in the hospital in 9/5, Rick looks out the window and you see those same birds, but then they transform into the CRM helicopters and they're coming right at him. So so let's just watch these 2 dreams right now, just to kind of refresh your memory. But let's go ahead and watch them. So now that you've seen those 2 dreams, that you can see how the birds kind of reference Rick Grimes, and then they have that on the movie poster, which I think this is leading into Rick Grimes, and we're going to get more into the poster and more on what this could mean throughout this video. But now I want to bring you back. I want to bring you to the world beyond the post-credit scene in season 2. You see Dr. Jenner speaking on the type of research that they were doing, and we also learn about a fast walker. And are these fast walkers going to be in New York? I'm going to get into that a little bit, about sort of a theory of how they could have got here and how this could all play in. But let's watch that post-credit scene right now to kind of refresh our memories. Okay, now we know that post-credit scene, it took place in France. And so one might ask, how are they going to get here into the U.S.? How, we're pretty much landlocked from them, from France. It would have to be in a boat or some sort of, or they would have had to been delivered here somehow, because they're not going to get, through the ocean to get over to the U.S. where, our family is. And so let's talk about that. How could they have gotten here? Now, one of the theories that I brought up before is that, so there's another spin-off that's being talked, that was already announced, and this is going into Fear the Walking Dead, where you had the submarine there, the USS Pennsylvania. Now, here's my thought. Now, we know Riley is part of that naval crew, and he's part of that, and that's something that I predicted, and I got that right. But what if that submarine was actually supposed to transport, some of those walkers or that virus over here to the U.S. And they got stuck there. Now Riley and some of his crew, maybe they locked themselves in a room or something up until they landed, and they got beached out there, and then they escaped, or they took those and delivered to those the virus or the walkers to the CRM, who we know is already around Texas, because of Isabel. So that is one of the theories how I think they could have got here, and I think when we watch that spinoff, we're going to learn more about that. But there also is another connection. Now, one of the things that they mention in that post-credit scene is the two teams. You got the Violet team and you got the Primrose team. Well, the Primrose team takes place in Ohio, and where is that connection? That's Lance Hornsby. Now, one thing we know is that he was a deputy governor before he went to the Commonwealth of a community in Ohio. Now, of course, in the comics, the Commonwealth takes place in Ohio, but Lance Hornsby is the connection now to the Ohio. So he may have a connection to the CRM, which is what I even mentioned in my character profiles that I'm doing. And what if he was in charge of these, or what if he is kind of like Jadis? Now, I believe he has a connection to the CRM, and that connection could be Jadis, finding members for A's and B's and providing these. Now, if you go to New Haunts, which is the last episode that I've seen for season 11, because I do not have AMC Plus, so we just saw that great episode, Eugene-centric episode. But a couple things that jumped to mind in that episode with Lance Hornsby, of course, you find out that, the fake Stephanie and Lance Hornsby are a part of this, secretive team, and what are they doing? But two things that I want to bring to your attention in that episode is, one is when he was, with Carol, he had that character Moto, who was, getting the opium for him. He had him arrested. The other thing was, and that kind of goes to show you that Lance got kind of control of the Commonwealth Guard. So he seems to be the one running the show as far as that. Now obviously Pamela Milton is running the show within the Commonwealth, but I believe that Lance kind of he does not like Pamela. I think he is going to try and overthrow her because he wants the power to himself. But now someone also at the end of that episode slid a piece of paper underneath Connie and Kelly's door that had a list of names, including Tyler Davis. Now we know Tyler Davis disappeared and where Mercer had no idea. So that goes to show you that Mercer is not aware of a lot of the stuff that's going on, that I believe Lance is kind of running under the nose of a lot of people. So what if that list, and what if Moto is just someone new that's added to the list that wasn't on that list yet? And of course, they wouldn't be on that list because they don't really know Moto, because he's kind of on the outside. But what if that list of people are people that Lance Hornsby traded to Jadis for her A's and B's? What if that's kind of where that's coming from, to test on these fast walkers possibility? And that's kind of where that's coming from. So check out my character profile. I'm going to play that for you right now. What's up, Deadheads? It's Brian Castrillo back with another character profile. And this one's going out to Lance Hornsby. Of course, he is portrayed by Josh Hamilton. And this is that scene from the new trailer for The Walking Dead Season 11B. It looks very ominous, like he could be a really bad guy. Now, what we do know about him is from a previous conversation with Yumiko, is that he seems to know someone up in high places. Now, I believe that he is connected to the CRM and that Pamela Milton is not aware of this. And that person who I believe that he is connected to is none other than Jadis. Go back to World Beyond in the season trailer, the post-credit scene, and we found out that there was a Primrose team that was working on these fast zombies. That Primrose team, of course, took place in Ohio. And what we do know about Lance Hornsby is that at some point he was a deputy governor of a community in Ohio. Now, in the comics, the Commonwealth is from Ohio. But what if Lance Hornsby is connected to that team, that Primrose team out in Ohio? The connection he has is Jadis and the CRM. What could that mean? And that I've been making these character profiles on my TikTok, and I've been putting them on my YouTube and all my other different social medias. But one of the things that I mentioned in there is the conversation that Lance had with Yumiko, and the subject was her brother who was just taken. Now, I think when Lance realized Yumiko was someone of importance, that's why her brother Tommy was allowed to come back. I believe that before he didn't realize the connection there, and he may have been almost taken as an A or B. And I think Tommy may actually know what's going on. And he may say something to Yumiko eventually, but I'm not sure. I feel like he may know, but we'll find out later with him. Now, again, that Primrose team is in Ohio. That Lance Hornsby is your connection there. But now, and of course, if he has control of the Commonwealth Guards, he can easily make this happen and have people taken and arrested and given to Jadis. The other thing I want to bring your attention to is Michonne's last episode. Now, she finds a ship log, and the most recent place that ship was, the same ship that she found Rick's boots on, was in a New Jersey shipyard Bridger's Shipyard, New Jersey. Now, I'm not sure. I was looking into some of the shipyards in New Jersey. I couldn't find one that was named Bridgers. It may be a reference of something of one of the, I think there's some bridges out there, but I don't know if that's the actual shipyard name. However, one thing that's interesting about the shipyard there is in New Jersey is that's very close to Manhattan. Depending on the shipyard, it's still relatively close to where Manhattan is, where Maggie and Negan are going to. So I do feel that this is where we may run into Michonne over there, and in that group that she's going with. So they may end up having some help there, but that'll be interesting because Michonne is not really aware of some of the new Negan stuff, but we may run into her there. Now, the other thing to bring into knowledge is that if you go back to World Beyond, there was a research facility that was mentioned that's in Ithaca, New York. Now, that's roughly 237 miles from Manhattan, so that's a bit of ways, and that's where Rick may end up being, or who knows, maybe he may be in Manhattan, but I kind of have a feeling that he's more in Ithaca, if not Philadelphia, but all that area is relatively close, so that's all going to come into play. Now, the other thing that people are talking about is that Negan and Maggie, this would never happen. They would never work together. Now, first, let me just say that Glenn is my absolute favorite character in the entire universe, on all shows. Everybody, he is my character. Maggie is another big favorite. I'm an unapologetic Maggie stan, and I'm a huge fan of Lauren Cohan and her work. I mean, heck, she's my celebrity crush. I absolutely love Lauren, but why? And the same goes to Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Negan. I love the character, and I agree. It doesn't make sense that they would be together, but this may be a relationship out of convenience, and I don't mean a relationship like they're going to get together. I just can't see that happening. I know the jokes are out there, the hate bang, but I don't see that happening. So how especially where Negan is kind of left. Now we do see in some of the previous trailers he meets up with some group. Who that group is and what their connection is going to be to bring him back is curious. Maybe they have some information on the CRM. Maybe now keep in mind that Negan has seen the helicopters fly above, which makes him perfect to go looking for the CRM. But maybe this group knows something about the CRM, and they may say something to Negan, and possibly bring up some information about Rick. But why? Now, of course, Maggie's very close to Rick, but why would Maggie and Negan go? Now, keep in mind, there was a scene. Now, I don't know if it's happening in this scene, but in one of the earlier trailers, you see a very scared Herschel Jr., and he's clinging to Maggie, his mom Maggie, and she has a gun pointed. You got the Commonwealth Guard surrounding them. I don't know if it's that scene, but maybe something as a domino effect occurs from that scene. But keep in mind what I said about Lance, how he's trading people. What if Lance takes Herschel Jr. And that is the connection. Negan finds out some information, and Negan, of course, how he wants to do right by children. He has always kind of been that way. Some might say women too, but he has his moments if you go back to him being the leader of the Saviors. But I digress. But what if that is the big thing? That the actual reason they're going there is because of some information that Negan found out, and then Herschel was taken over there, and that was Lance told Maggie that, because you have the situation where Maggie does not has some sort of disagreement. But I only got to New Haunt, so I don't know what's going on with that. But what if eventually Herschel gets taken and Negan and Maggie are going to save Herschel? What if that's it? And then they run into, Michonne, they find information on Rick. And I think that group that Negan runs into is going to be key as to what this new, the reason for them going. I think that's going to have a lot of information. But yeah, I'm excited for a lot of this stuff. Again, it feels weird. I'm a huge Maggie and Glenn fan, so it feels weird for them to be paired. But you gotta love how well they play off each other. I mean, the acting from Lauren Cohan and Jeffrey Dean Morgan has been nothing short of brilliant. The animosity that they're showing from each other and how they play off of it has been fantastic. I mean, the Reapers were a good story. They kind of, as far as, I don't want to say they're filler, but as far as they kind of remind me of the Wolves. A short villain thing leading up to the Saviors. This is a short. The Reapers were kind of a short villains scene leading up to the Commonwealth and eventually the CRM. So that's kind of where they kind of remind me of. But yeah, what do you guys think of this? The reason, are you excited for this new show? What questions do you have? What do you want to know? What do you think of my predictions of this happening? But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed it. But yeah, the Walking Dead universe is getting bigger. Eventually, these movies are coming. We got spin-offs. I'm excited. I cannot wait. I can't wait for this Sunday's episode. A lot more questions are going to be answered, or a lot more questions are going to be asked, because there's a lot of stuff going on, and clearly Angela Kang has flipped the script, and we are no longer we're really not going by the comics. So this is all new territory with some familiar faces. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I love you guys.